Hey everyone, it's Olivia coming to you from the Embracing Only podcast. Thanks for joining us here again.
We're so excited to be here. We do want to share something with all of you. If you love what you hear on the Embracing Only podcast, you love what we share on the Embracing Only podcast, you can book Olivia and me at your next panel discussion. You can book Olivia and me, or Olivia or me, as a speaker to talk about at your next diversity, equity, and inclusion keynote as well. We're getting out there, we're sharing our voice beyond just this podcast community, and we would love to be welcomed into your space.
Here, here.
Here all day long, because let's get that voice out there. So this thing that, since we just deviated a little bit, Jazz told me we should say this every time on our podcast. She's like, why the hell are you losing the opportunity to remind people that they should book you? Because if you don't tell them, they won't think to book you, and they're not going to go to your
Facts.
website to find that. So I was like, okay, every time we'll start with it and we will end with it as well.
Okay.
If you love what you hear, you can, engage with us. You can say the Guiding Light program, and then the this thing as well. Okay,
Okay.
cool. So we had a chance, Olivia, to chat with Campbell, who is just this phenomenal human that was a fighter pilot who navigated some of the most hairiest situations in her career on our last episode. And she talks about how, while fear is a normal reaction to a stressful situation, it's not a negative thing. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's so interesting that she views it as not a negative thing. And I kind of agree with her,
Mm,
right? Like our biological fear response is there to keep us out of harm's way. The problem, though, is that we have evolved into a modern society where things like stress and anxiety create or fear is the root of stress and anxiety, but we're not physically in harm's way, right? So it's like over the evolution of humans, we've turned our fear response, which is supposed to protect us from bodily harm, into something else that is negative. But the fear in and of itself is just a tool. It's our body's way of saying, hey, like something is amiss here. You might want to figure out if you're going to fight or if you're going to flight, right? Fear is that trigger for the fight or flight response. The problem is that's other things outside of things that are going to cause us great bodily harm are now allowed to trigger that fight or flight response, which is wreaking havoc on our psyches. So theoretically, I agree with her. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's
yes.
it's a our body's built-in mechanism.
Yeah, and I think when she said those words, I just literally had to like go back and reflect on it, because you organically move through life being like, "Oh, I'm feeling fear." That's a bad thing. That's the first immediate response your mind goes
Mhm.
to. But if you can start training your mind to be like, "Okay, I'm feeling fear. It's that normal reaction to this stressful situation. But what do we do now that I am scared? What do I do now with regards to the next steps? Who do I reach out to help me with the next steps in order to get to the other side of fear?" um, if we can continue to like navigate that, then that could potentially turn into looking at fear as not being a negative thing. I'm not there yet. Complete radical honesty here. But I know I start doing those, next steps, like, okay, I go into immediate like problem solving mode, right? Like,
Mhm.
let's do it, like, what's the next step, what's the next step, what's the next step? But it's all being processed from a place of fear being negative. But if you were
Mhm.
to use it as a positive, that, oh my gosh, I'm scared out of my wits end, and I'm going to do it anyway, it's transformative. And the closest, Olivia, I've come to this is during my most recently started entrepreneurial journey. Every day, everything I did, the first clients I tried to get, the first customers I spoke to, the first speaking gig I tried to book, I was like, crap, I'm doing all of this extremely scared, because this is do or die. Like, I don't have a full time job or anything else. This is it. But I realized I was doing it anyway. And there was these, like, what I call butterflies. And I kept following those butterflies to be like, we're going to turn it into the outcomes I seek by using fear as a fuel.
So you said something there, Archita. I wouldn't label fear as positive either.
Oh, interesting.
It's just neutral. It just is what it is. You
Hmm.
know, it's not good, it's not bad. It just is what it is. It's your body's warning system,
Hmm.
right? So the challenge, and I love that, your example of doing it anyways, doing it afraid, because what happens over time, right? And this is me pulling on probably my military experience. What happens over time is your body starts to realize, oh, okay, yeah, this is scary, but you're fine. Like you're not going to die, right? And your body will adapt to that to no longer set off the bells and whistles when it realizes, okay, you're in a high stress situation, that's fine, like you'll make it through it. You're not going to die. You'll stop sending yourself into this fight or flight or freeze, right? It's fight, flight, or freeze mode. You'll stop triggering those responses because your body has learned once you've done enough scary things, your body will adjust. So for me, I agree with you. I mean, I know you and I talk about this a lot. People have this impression of me that I never get afraid and I never get nervous and my stuff is all together. I promise you, it is not. It is not. But I've learned these coping mechanisms over time, and now I almost utilize fear in a way where it's like if I'm pursuing something big and I'm feeling fear, I'm almost like, yep, I'm on the right path, right? Like if my dream is so big that it scares me, I have to be willing to be bad at something and have some kind of negative consequence so I can learn, so I can be great at whatever it is that I'm trying to do. I think it's this human preoccupation with perfectionism. This is where it's going, right?
Right,
It
right.
is our preoccupation with being perfect that sends our body into fight, flight, or freeze mode when we're doing something big. You do not need to be perfect. There is no such thing as perfect, right? Be willing to be bad so that you can be your version of great in whatever it is that you do. The fear is, again, just something that warns you, but you're doing the right things. And I would encourage all of our women to do the same thing, is to sit with it and be like, why am I afraid? What's the worst that can happen
Mm-hmm.
here? Right. And make an intentional choice to do it anyways.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean it's so right. But it's so interesting though, right? Because I love this. You're like, first of all, fear is not positive or negative. It's just it is. It just is. We
Just
usually like
as.
label all our emotions, right? Like good or bad emotions. We were raised to like label all our emotions to be good and bad emotions, right? So it's unlearning that. But it's also unlearning. I don't know. I mean, for me right now, it's unlearning. Like what you said, perfect action is the only thing that delivers results. I have to unlearn that because imperfect action is also progress. And I didn't feel like I had permission while I was in the corporate world to be imperfect. I don't know about you, but I didn't feel like I had, maybe I put that on myself, I'm not sure, but I didn't feel like I had permission to be imperfect and then still have progress. Except I would say most recently, like I did have a manager who who put me into situations knowing I was completely imperfect, and that was liberating. That he had, but I had that safety. But I was like, wow, okay, this man believes in me. I'm gonna like do my best. I don't have all the information. I'm not ready to come in front of the board of directors my third day on the job, but I'm gonna do it anyway because he knows whatever my imperfect action is still better than what they've had before. But what are your thoughts, like, as people explore and work through their way in the corporate world, where they may or may not have that level of safety, where they have someone, uh, how would you encourage them to explore this like imperfect action to making progress?
So, what you're describing is psychological safety.
Right.
And if you do not have psychological safety on your team, in your role, that's a problem, right? Because we are going to make mistakes. Whether you intend to do it or not, We are humans. We are going to make mistakes at some point in time in our careers. So, if you're in a situation, and we talk about this as part of the Guiding Light Masterclass, assessing your environment to understand whether you're valued or you're not. If you don't have permission to make a mistake where you are and to move forward, truly, if this is not like a story you've told yourself, if you've literally been hung out to dry for trying something new and it failed, and I'm not talking about repeat mistakes.
Mhm.
Repeat mistakes are a different situation. If you keep making the same mistake over and over and over again, yes, that is called accountability. People are going to hold you accountable for that. But if you try something and fail and you get hung out to dry, it means you're not valued. And you need to take some different steps to figure out, okay, do I stay in this team but just report to a different manager? Do I change roles in the organization, or do I leave the organization altogether in search of a place where you are valued? I would say that is your first step, is assessing whether you are valued where you sit or not. If the answer to no, to the value piece is no, it's time to hit the eject button. Okay,
Yes.
it's time to do something,
Yes, save yourself,
right?
as Steve would say. Um,
Yes.
but what I love is that, because honestly, if you all have not checked out the Guiding Light Masterclass, you should. I've had three women, Olivia, shared just that. When you don't sit down to do the assessment with regards to what you can and cannot control, what is driving the fear, whether you do or do not have that safety at work, you either push through the motions, burn yourself out, get a bunch of mental health challenges you're dealing with, or you just throw a bunch of tactics out there hoping, like, just throw out different things to do hoping it'll get you out of the situation. And you talk about something in your Guiding Light Masterclass, which is a strategy, right? So if
Yes.
you were to share, like, what would strategic action to own your own career look like? What would that look like
Oh
for
gosh.
the audience?
I mean, Archita, this is a very long topic. It's very hard to cover in a brief little stint here. But I think I will just sum it up by saying this. You have to have a strategy. If you're listening to this right now and you're like, what the hell are they talking about? Strategy, career strategy. You are in a bad spot if you don't know what we're talking about right now. Because here's the deal, from a corporate space, corporations are not designed to help you become whatever it is that you want to become. That's not why they're there. Corporations are businesses. They're accountable to their shareholders. Their job is to earn profits. And they will earn profits whether you are mentally healthy and safe, or if they've dug you into a grave and they've rolled you over and they've replaced you with someone else. Either way, the corporation's mission will be accomplished. Okay. So, the corporation, your job is a tool for you to use to accomplish whatever it is that you are trying to accomplish in your life. It is your job to know, what is it specifically that you're trying to accomplish? What is your timeline? How much money do you want to make? How do you want to live? Do you want to travel? Do you want to stay still? Do you want to be the CEO of the company? Or do you just want to be a VP? Or maybe you don't care about title. Maybe it's all about money and flexibility for you. All of those things, what you need, what you want to be, how you want to live, how much money you want to earn, all of those little components make up your career strategy. And I will go one step further to share this. When this week I was talking to a young lady that I mentor, and every time I get on the phone with her, Archita, she goes 100 miles an hour.
Mm.
It's like, I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm doing this and I'm volunteering for this. And I've got this project and this is so awesome. And I got this. And I'm always like, holy crap.
Is her name
Ho-
Archita?
no,
10 years ago? Still perfectly true, too.
but so many of us are so caught up in the doing.
Yes.
And so finally today, after about 10 minutes, I mean, the poor girl did not take a breath. She was just like, but after 10 minutes, and I was like, whoa, whoa, why are you doing all of this stuff?
Yes.
Like, what are you marching towards? And it's almost like I hit her with a brick,
Mm.
because she stopped and she looked at me and she's like, well, I don't know. And I was like, okay, all right, good that you admitted
Yes.
that you don't know. We can work with that. what do you want to do? And then she started to talk to me about some of these not all of the pet projects that she's been given at work, but a lot. And mind you, this is an entry level employee. Okay.
Mm,
So I think she's like a supervisor
mm,
making like $60,000. And she's got all of these projects on top of running her day job. And I'm just like, my love, are you breathing? Are you living? Like what else? What else
right.
can you do with all of the stuff that you've taken on? And so we finally got to a place where her face lit up and she was like, I love running these projects where I'm educating people and I'm talking about, leadership or development. And I was like, oh, that sounds like this particular job that we have in our company in talent management, where they crank out all of these trainings for our employees and it's really an educational group. And she's like, oh my God, that would be like my dream job.
Mm,
And I was like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. And then I asked her, of all the things that you just told me that you're doing, how many of those things align to exactly where you want to be? Archita,
yes.
out of the 15 things that she was rattling off in the first 10 minutes, two of them,
Yep.
only two of them aligned with what she actually wants to do. So you can see how the lack of career strategy
Yeah.
fuels things like burnout, fuels
Yes.
things like frustration, fuels
Yes.
things like imposter syndrome because we feel like we're doing so much,
Yes.
but we're not being rewarded for this extra effort. You're not being rewarded because you don't know what you want, and people don't know what you want, so they
Yeah.
can't appropriately reward you.
Yeah.
That is the crux of a career strategy, so that you know exactly what you want, so you're not wasting your time burning yourself out doing all of these adjacent things that aren't in alignment with what you actually want.
Yes. 100%. Oh my goodness. Like, I could not like nod my head more vigorously, which I'm not, but I'm like nodding on the inside here. Is the fact that there's this research recently, right, Olivia? Like women do 200 hours more of office housework in a year than men
Yes.
do. Like what the heck, women? Like, come on, we've got to be better. Like we should be saying no more. We should be saying no more and doing exactly what you're saying. Like if I'm taking on this extra housework, how does this relate to what my plan is, like my IDP, my individual development plan is? And if it does not relate, have a chat with your manager, sit down with them, be like, listen, I have all of these things on my plate. This is where I want to go in 2 years or 6 months or whatever the heck it is. I'm not going to be able to get here because I can't focus on these things because I have 80 other things that I have to do. What's most important? What I'm really curious about is that if someone gets to this point and they start saying no, this starts irritating people suddenly, right? Because they're like, hey, this woman's always said yes. What the heck? Like, she can't just suddenly say no. So, what we also need to recognize is that people are not going to like it. And we're going to have to move past the point of not being liked to be the yes woman all the time. Because in that moment, you're teaching them how to treat you, right? We're teaching them how to treat you. And it's going to be the most uncomfortable thing we have ever done for ourselves. Because for the most part, I mean, I've gone through this journey myself. I still am going through this journey. We constantly want to perform for
Love.
love. Right? It's like, yes, I want that. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, I was helpful with this. Oh, I made that happen. Oh, yes. No, that's bullshit. Whatever. Like, it's not good. We don't swear on this podcast. Apple makes me do
We
that.
try our best not to.
We try our best not to. But that's it. It's like, how when you also recognize that when you start saying no, you're going to have people looking at you and being like, who is this person? And you need to
Yep.
be comfortable with that person first.
Yep. Archie, you couldn't be more correct, because when you have taught someone that anytime they come to you, you're going to be like, put me in, coach. Yep, absolutely, I'll take that, no problem. You're going to take on the toughest, the hardest, the longest projects, all so that you can get the attaboy at the end, that at the end of the day doesn't mean anything, let's
Mm,
be honest.
yes.
Unless you're in the early stages of building your brand, which, okay, then maybe you're building your brand right now and you're doing that
That's
intentionally.
strategy.
but
That's
most
strategy.
but
That's
it's
okay.
strategy.
Yes.
Most of us don't go into these things with intention. attention. We are so flattered by the attaboys and the recognition that at the end of the day does not help us advance our careers. It doesn't help us get more money. It doesn't help us get more flexibility or all any of the things typically that people want. It doesn't help you achieve. All it does is it gives you a little dose of dopamine. So you're like, yay, they like me. And it's like you've sacrificed all of this just to get a yay, they like me. Like, come on, ladies. Let this niceness is killing us. It is
Yes.
killing. It is sending us into mental health fits. It is
Yes.
sending our bodies into panic attacks and like physical breakdown. Niceness is killing us. And I will say this, Archita, I think you and I had discussed this, but you have to embrace your no so you can honor your yes, right?
Yes. Yes.
I will say it again. You have to embrace your no so you can honor your yes. Because when you say no to things, you keep yourself in alignment. And whoever doesn't like that, that is their problem. That is not for you to worry about. But you have to be so comfortable in your skin
Yes.
and so sure of what you're after that you're not going to then be distracted by someone that doesn't like that now you're changing, you're evolving, you're operating differently. How they feel about it is irrelevant, but just be prepared for that.
Yes, and I think the most important thing is the only way you get comfortable is practice. So practice
Yes.
it, ladies. Like you can't just sit here and assume one day suddenly you're going some I don't know, the meteor is going to hit planet Earth and you're now going to be comfortable because you're like, crap, I have 5 minutes to live. So I'm going to like figure
Mhm.
out how to say no. No, like start the practice now. Like in the next time someone comes to you, or even what you have on your plate, go to your manager and say, no, thank you for this, thank you for this. So that because in the most critical moments when you do need to say no, you have had no practice and you feel like you only have one choice,
Mhm.
and that is yes.
Mhm.
And that makes it
And I have to ask this question, Archita. So I'm going to ask
Hmm,
you a question.
tell me,
What is our aversion to being uncomfortable? What's the aversion to it?
what is our aversion to being uncomfortable? It's the fear of the unknown, of what we're going to
Okay.
feel like on the other end of it because we're uncomfortable. It is what is our aversion to being uncomfortable? Yeah, maybe just the fear of no control,
Okay.
right? Fear of no control, fear of the unknown. And yeah, I probably start with those two things right now that are just coming to my
So it's a fear-based response
yeah, right?
when you're like, "Oh, I don't want to be uncomfortable." But if we think about it, like let's really think about it. When you're a kid, right? And you're learning to potty train,
Yeah,
you're
sure.
uncomfortable. When you show up on the first day of school and you don't know what school is going to be like,
Yes,
you're
super
uncomfortable,
uncomfortable.
right? You're when you have to give your first presentation in class, you're uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then all of a sudden we become adults and it's like, oh God, I can never do anything that makes me uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
When did we
Yes.
make that leap
Oh, I love it. Yes. But do you
from
think
learning and growing to all of a sudden being adults and being like, we have all of everything figured out. We can no longer be uncomfortable ever again, ever.
but that's it right there though. I think and I mean I love that. I love that. I love that. I'm saying yes to that. And I'm making an attempt at like unpacking why. Is as young children, maybe we didn't feel like we had agency to say this is uncomfortable, therefore I don't want to do it. As we grow older, we're like, this is uncomfortable, I don't want to do it. We feel like we do have agency as we grow older because we can make choices for ourselves. So then we ask ourselves, why do I want to put myself through this? Because it's uncomfortable, right? That's a fact. Like so many people roam this earth doing the same thing every day. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but because they literally like a friend of mine was literally telling me, I love him to death, love him to death. One of the nicest human beings in my life. When I was going on this journey of becoming an entrepreneur, he's like, I don't know why you're dealing with all of this, because I was literally dealing with crap with the government and the insurance and all this nonsense. And he came with me to help translate, and he's like, this is just so much more comfortable. Like, you make a paycheck, I just have to put in these hours. I mean, it's just comfortable. Why would you put yourself through this, right? So it's because we feel like we have agency to make a choice, And I think that makes us, I don't know, I don't want to say this because I don't want to not honor someone's choices, but maybe you'll articulate it better for me after I blurt this out. So is we become like lazy with what's easy. And I'm not, that's where my head's at. We become lazy with what's easy. Of course, if it's uncomfortable, but it's like harming you, it's not safe for you, get the hell out of there. Like all of that
Yes.
stuff, like find
Yes.
the help you need. I'm not talking about that at all, like where it's associated with safety, respect, any of that stuff. But I'm talking about the other things in life. So I don't know. I always I ask myself like, I have agency to make a decision, and if the decision is I want to be comfortable, and if I'm happy with it, that's also okay.
Sure, if you're happy with it.
Yeah,
Yes, it's
and most
fine.
of us are
But
not.
I will tell you, I mean, I'll be a little bit bolder and say
Yet,
our laziness, if that's what you're choosing, it's trash. It's trash.
right?
It is. I'm not going to honor that because what you have agreed to do is sell your soul, sell your magic, sell your brilliance to these companies for a paycheck so that you can be comfortable and
Mm,
be lazy in
yeah,
your comfortability.
yeah,
That is what we have done. You've everybody's seen the memes or you've seen it somewhere where it's like this picture and it's like the corporations are literally paying you just enough for you to forget your dream, right?
yeah.
And I tie this back, and maybe this is a spiritual belief, but I believe that we are all on this earth for a reason. We
Yeah,
all have a purpose here.
yeah,
And I know finding your purpose can end up being very
right.
cliche and all of that, but truly, I believe we all wouldn't be here on this planet at this moment in time doing what we're doing if we didn't have a specific purpose on this earth.
Mhm.
I truly believe that when we die or we move on, it's because our purpose here has been complete and we've gone off to somewhere else. And whatever happens then happens. That is how I choose to see the world. Clearly, I can't validate that opinion with any facts, but it's how I choose to see the world. So if you have given up and maybe your purpose is in your company,
Mm,
doing something big and amazing in your company, being an advocate for someone, pulling people up, you know,
yes.
inventing something, having a patent that changes the lives of millions of people. You can do amazing things. You don't have to go be an entrepreneur to
Or
to
just even
to
being a decent manager. I also want to be put that as a
right.
caveat. You don't need to be doing something big, bold, and crazy that becomes a LinkedIn like viral post. You can just be doing basic things that change the life of people forever, which is being a decent human being as a manager as well, right? That's also going to be an amazing purpose. Yes.
Exactly. But it's such a personal thing because all of us have felt it when we were kids before life got to us.
Mm.
We would say things like, "Oh, I want to be an artist," or "I want to be a musician," or "I want to be a ballet dancer," or "I want to be the president," or "I want to be an astronaut," whatever.
The
And then at
ambassador to
some
India.
point
That was mine.
or that. Yes, right? So, and at some point in time, life beats us down to say, you can't do that. That's not reasonable. You got to get a job at the Piggly Wiggly like everybody else in your family. And this is what you're doing because this is what we all did, right? Like some external forces acted upon you to make you forget your dream.
Mm-hmm.
And what I want to encourage people to do is dream again.
Mm-hmm.
Our dreams, our purposes live in our subconscious if we're only willing to be still and listen to it. We know exactly what sets our hearts on fire when we're at work,
Yeah.
or maybe what sets your heart on fire when you're at home or something that you're doing in your community. Your body, your body's such an amazing thing. It'll tell you, it'll give you goosebumps, it'll give you butterflies, it'll give you whatever that lets you know you're on the right path. This is what you should be pursuing because it gives you great joy. Whatever that thing is, turn that into your purpose and don't let the audacity of it make you feel afraid because you can do if your body is telling you this excites you, this is amazing,
Yes.
follow it. Listen to it, push past the fear. That is the thing you should be chasing.
Yes, and I'm saying yes to all of this, and I think it took me almost like 4 years to get here to be like I'm starting my own thing, right? Because I had the audacity to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to start dreaming about it, but then I was like, it's too much. I mean, I should not be dreaming about this. Like, girl, go do a great job at work, go do this, have a bunch of side hustles, do that. I'm giving you permission for that, but don't go dream that big, right? So I also want to share, because I want to also share that sometimes getting from that point A or wherever we might be in our journeys to like the point B or where we want to go, like, I mean, mentally, not just like in actual results, can take some time. But you also have to do the work to make it happen, because you can't just sit and hope that one day you're going to be so ready that you will go and start doing this thing that you wanted to do. It could, and when I say go do, it doesn't mean going start your own company or anything. It could be like, the next job that you want at a company, the starting a daycare, whatever it is, go becoming a Le Cordon Bleu chef. I hope I'm saying that word right. But the reality is that you've got to start the work when you start feeling those butterflies, and you got to start chipping away at it, and you got to start like getting help to like help you chip away at it. But you've got to start making progress, because otherwise you will get comfortable with being comfortable. And then no matter what, and then there's got to be something crazy that happens that shakes your world so much that will like push you to doing it. But why wait? Be proactive with your life. What the heck, right? We need to be
I
proactive.
agree. Why wait? No one needs to give you permission. Give
No.
yourself permission to be bold. Give
Yes.
yourself permission to be seen. Some of us are so afraid to be seen. No, girl, step out into that light, straighten that crown, let them see you in all of your glory.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm going to share this with the listeners. Like when I was creating my websites, like that was the hardest thing. I was like, I'm going and doing this thing, but I don't want to really see myself out there, because I don't know if the world has given me permission enough to do it. And then I had one of these drafts, and we were having this landing page tear down with Miss Olivia here. And she's like, why the heck is your face not all over this thing? Why do I go here and I see like a genetic something or the other? I can't even remember what you said. And I was like, well, oh, Olivia, wouldn't it feel like I'm full of myself? Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no, you're selling what you are great at. You're selling what you are really good at doing. If they don't see you, what are they buying? What are they buying into with regards to the transformation? So I think it's also giving yourself permission to be the story, or be the person that you are building yourself to be. Like giving yourself permission to do that is a journey as well. So, but get started.
Just get started. If you take away anything from what we're saying here today, is just take the first step and then take another step after that and take another little step after that.
Yes.
And next thing you know, you'll look back and be like, holy crap, I just ran a marathon.
Yes.
And you won't even realize it. Stop looking so far out to the end and instead focus on the one little step in front of you
Yes.
and then the next step after that. I promise you, if we learn to embrace the journey and learn to be comfortable with ourselves, it's really a comfortability with ourselves,
Yes.
who we are in all of our gloriousness. Learn to be that comfortable and take those little incremental steps. You will get there. I promise you, you will get there. Everybody started somewhere, and most of us that started, when we started, those first 2, 3, 4, 5 steps were total trash. Like we jacked them up. We didn't do good things. We
Yes.
learned,
Oh
right?
my gosh.
And then we gradually became experts. So just take the step.
Yes, and I'm gonna just say it on loud here, because this will be something I'll like go back and listen to like maybe 5 years from now, wherein I'll be like, yes, I took the first step. So I recently took my first step as to get my first paid speaking gig. It was scary as hell, because they asked me for a bunch of
Woo!
money. I was, of course, Olivia and I speak for a lot of different at a lot of different places. Some pay, some don't, but this one was like a big one. I was excited, and I was like, yes, I can tell my story. I got this. Like, this is like natural to me. Like, come on, Archita, you've said a bunch of stories. I didn't do my best, is the best way to say it. Like, you do something that you're really good at, and you're just like, okay, that did not land as well as I'd like it to, for numerous reasons. Then I had to get, and it was a journey to like accept that, because I messaged Olivia, I messaged my sister, and I was like, I failed at this miserably. This was really bad. And Olivia was like, girl, that time has, let it go, that time has passed, or the time has passed. My sister was like, okay, just be honest with yourself. What could you have done better? Do better and move on. And I'm still talking about it 3 days later because you can imagine I'm still processing this. But I know that this will be my first step to a phenomenal speaking career, right, Olivia?
Yes.
And I've learned so much from this one experience right now, where I'm like, I'm not going to repeat that again, because I know what good looks like, I know what great looks like. But giving yourself permission to step into that place, and then now I'm like dealing with my uncomfortableness. It doesn't mean I'm not going to go raise my hand up to go do the next speaking assignment. I am, but I'm sharing this because I'm like, I'm extremely uncomfortable right now, because I have never not done something that was just pure awesomeness. So this was hard to digest.
But I want to weigh in here and say this. Um, when you do something awesome, it's awesome by your standards, not
Yes.
anybody else's standards,
Yes.
right? And one of the first questions I asked you when you were like, "Oh, this was terrible." I was like, "Was it really though, or was it terrible for your standards?"
Right.
Right? So there are people like us in the world where we hold ourselves to these impossible standards,
Yeah.
right? And you and I will do something and be like, "Oh, that was trash." And then everybody around us is like, "That was amazing. Like that was so good."
Yeah.
And then it's like, "Oh, okay." Like the external validation gets us back into the game. Here's the trick. You have to set your own standards and meet your own standards.
Yeah.
And when you miss, right? So in this particular incident, you feel like it was a miss. What you immediately did that I love is you sent me a WhatsApp chat and said, "These are the three things that went wrong. Here's what I'm going to do better next time."
Yes.
Great. So at that point, you had already done your self reflection. You had already, first of all, you had already established a standard for yourself. This is what I want a speaking engagement with Archita to be like. This is the
Mhm.
experience I want people to have with me. And then when you felt like you didn't deliver that experience, you immediately self reflected and said, "This is what I'm going to do different next time."
Mhm.
Amazing. Now let it go,
Yeah.
right? You did everything that you should have done. The moment has now passed. Today, you're not sitting in that uncomfortability. The moment, again, has
No.
passed. You've already done your self reflection. Find another opportunity to trial this new process, and inevitably you're going to learn something the second time around as
Yes.
well, right?
Yes.
So that's how we should be looking at these little incremental steps. Anything that I have touched for the first time, Archita, it never goes well to my standard. But by the fifth or sixth time, it's like, all right, I got this dialed. Now this is my process. This is my operating procedure for all of you engineers out there
Yes.
that I can follow every time to make sure I nail this every single time, right?
Yes.
And even then, the best laid plans go awry. You could have technical difficulties. Somebody couldn't show up. Your screen might not work and you have to wing it. All sorts of things happen.
Yeah.
But as long as you are not repeating mistakes and you're not living by somebody else's standard, you're living by your own standard, you're going to be just fine.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, 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 yes to all of this. Because we, and to a point of, yes, we have our standards, but it's okay if we even miss to our standards. That is what we really have to get really, like, when you start something new, you have to get really comfortable with. I was just listening to one of our first episodes. It just happened to pop up because I was very honest on one of the LinkedIn threads recently. I have never actually listened to a full episode of mine, ever. I literally go to, oh
Really?
yes, because I cannot hear my voice. This sounds ridiculous, because how the hell do I make my snippets? I literally look at the transcript. I speed through my section and I listen to your section. I just speed through my section and
Wow.
listen to my guest section. I'm not even kidding. It's like I was very honest on a thread, and I realized like three other women of color, surprisingly, all do the same thing. So I felt some community there. But which is very interesting, right? But I started this podcast 3 years ago, right, Olivia? Like I was 7 weeks. No, I was. Yes, I just popped a freaking child. No, actually, it was literally, I just popped my third child. And we were like, yes, we're going live. That was our deadline. Achita pops the baby. This has to go the day before the baby pops. Like, that was the whole plan. I was listening to one of those episodes, and I was like, because it came up by mistake, because I would not purposefully listen to it. I was looking for something and I typed that in, and iTunes just automatically plays it. And I was like, wow, I have come a long way from one of those initial podcast episodes of like, I was so proper. You're listening to Archita on the 906 welcome to the 906. And here, like, we are laughing. I'm like, I'm giving myself permission to grow along that journey. To like, and I was extremely uncomfortable because it was my first time stepping out of the corporate like branding that defined my entire existence. And so I did not even know who the heck I was. And that's something I want to explore next, is that people, women, who have been in corporate spaces for years on end and want to start defining who they are outside of their corporate persona, what might be some things that you have seen have worked really well? Because Olivia, you have done this really well for yourself. Yes, you're a veteran. Yes, you had a whole life and career before you entered the corporate world, but you've also been in the corporate world for such a long time. You've created a speaking career out of this. You have created an entrepreneurship career out of this. You have created a coaching career out of this, all while still embodying this corporate self. So how did you step into that um, path of exploring these different identities and giving energy to them according to like your overall career strategy plan?
Yeah, so it's a great question, Archita. And I will tell you, I spent the first, I'd say, 4 or 5 years of my corporate journey just figuring out what the heck was going on in corporate, right? So, to remind our listeners, if you don't know my backstory, I was a military engineer. I spent 8 years active duty military, being an engineering leader in the Coast Guard, on boats, doing counter drugs and migrants. It was a blast, and then met my husband and decided, okay, I need to transition in the civilian world. So my first 5 years, I felt like I was a bit older because I had this whole career before I joined the civilian space. Um, and I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, I don't know what this corporate life is even about. Like, I didn't know who I was outside of being Lieutenant Grant. So, Grant was my maiden name. My identity was tied to my military career. I didn't know who I was or what my superpowers were, because at that time I was like, I'm just a great engineer and I'm a good leader. I know those two things about myself. Now, in the corporate space, I didn't join in research and development. I actually took a job in supply chain, which was crazy, right? Like, I didn't know anything about supply chain. I didn't know if I was going to like it, if I was going to hate it, like what it was about. So, those first 5 years, I really used corporate America as a tool to figure out, what am I good at? Who am I now? Who do I need to be successful here? What do I want to do in my life? Do I want to do this or do I want to do something else? I had no idea. So I started to ask these questions. And luckily for me, I also had people in my inner circle who I had adopted as mentors. I was just like, you're going to be my mentor now, that would I would have these conversations with, and who would also be like, oh, Olivia, you should do this because you're really good at this. Right.
Mm,
And so that I call that first phase in my corporate space the discovery phase.
mm,
Okay. I was discovering what corporate America was. I was discovering who I was now that I didn't wear the uniform anymore.
yes.
I was discovering everything. Okay. Then I had a building phase. So once, 5 years or so went by, I was like, okay, now I kind of know what I want to be. I can reintroduce who I was as a leader
Yeah.
in the military, but tweak it a little bit to fit into this corporate space, because there were some things about my leadership style that was not conducive
Mm,
to corporate America that I needed to change. And then I started to think, what do I want to do with this
mm,
now? Right. And so at that point in time, I'm in HR, I'm supporting sales. I love the mechanics of the business. And I started to find my voice.
mm,
Now, in finding my voice, as luck would have it, someone reached out to me and said, hey, will you do this talk for us? This was in 2018. This is
mm.
how we met. Right.
Yes.
So I do this talk and I'm like, holy crap, I like being on stage.
Yes.
I enjoy public speaking. I've had no training in it and I'm kind of good at it, right?
Yes.
So now my superpowers are really starting to take shape. And I got so much great feedback from that. I was like, oh, this is great. It feels good. Sure. Was I nervous? Archita, before I took that stage, I don't think I ever told you this.
No.
I was shaking and sweating so bad. I thought that you would be able to hear my teeth rattle through the
Oh
mic
my
that I
God.
had pinned on me. I
You
was
would not
that
know
nervous,
that. I've watched that video 100 times. You would not know that.
shaking so bad. Archita, so bad. And you could, when I watch it, I know how I was feeling, and you could hear the first maybe 2 or 3 minutes. I was trying to find my stride. So I was stumbling over my words a little bit. And then I hit my stride and it was fine from
Mm,
there. But that was my first experience
yeah.
being in the light, as I call it, that I was like, okay, I'm good at this. That felt good. I like this. And then I started to look for more opportunities within my company to do things like that.
Right.
So anytime someone was like, "Oh, do you want to be on a panel?" Yes. "Do you want to host this discussion?" Yes. Like I started to do things around my superpower that made me feel good. And our company uses the language fills your bucket, do
Yes.
things that fill your bucket.
Yes.
This
Yes.
was filling my bucket,
Love that.
but wasn't necessarily part of my day job. So, although I enjoyed my day job as an HR leader, I started to look for ways to fill my bucket external to my company, knowing now that I love this. And so adjacent things started to happen. I would go to recruiting conferences and they'd be like, "Hey, do you mind like getting up on stage and talking about your company or
Mhm.
whatever?" And so I started to it's like the universe started to throw opportunities my way to
Yeah.
give me practice. And then at some point in time, and I don't really recall, I'll probably have to think about this. Um, I went through this wrestling about posting on LinkedIn. Actually, I think it was you, if I recall this. You were like, can you please use your voice
Yes, that
on
was
social
me. That
media?
was me.
It was
Like,
you.
what the heck? This is not you, miss. This is not you. Extra
Yes.
your voice.
Yeah, and I was so uncomfortable. I was like, I kind of don't want to post. Like, what if I sound stupid? And once you put it in writing, the internet is forever.
Yes.
What if I make a mistake? What the fear started to and uncomfortability started to creep in. And truth be told, I just had to get over it. I had to get over myself
Yeah.
and be like, you know what? The first couple posts are going to be bad. They're not going to make sense. People aren't going to get it. We're just going to build from there. And I did it.
Yeah.
And then I started to get comfortable doing it and knowing that people were either going to respond positively or maybe respond negatively. And then I started to set boundaries for myself. I am not arguing with any idiots on the internet.
No.
I'm not doing it.
No.
So if you want to leave something negative or nasty on my post, guess what's happening? Delete and blocked. Like I don't have time for it.
No.
So that is a boundary I have created for myself to manage my mental health. If it's constructive feedback, I'll take that all day, every day, helping me to get better. But if you're just showing up and being nasty, delete, blocked. Like it is not my job to change hearts and minds.
Yeah.
I will let our DEI professionals take that path. For me, if you want to be dumb, I have no reason to engage with you. You can go harass someone else. Goodbye. Like,
Yes. Exactly.
I'm done with it.
Exactly, exactly. No, I love that. I love that. I mean, what I love about, I keep saying I love that. I love that. I think I can only hear my sister saying, "Can you think of another filler word to say?" Yes, my sister listens to every one of my episodes. God bless her. Literally, she's like my number one fan. My husband does
I
not
love it.
listen to all my episodes. Seriously, my sister does, and then yes, I don't. So that there goes that. But what I love about this journey here, Olivia, is that you recognized you had to shed a previous character that you were, right? Like you were the veteran, you were this military leader, in order to embrace this new journey you were going on, which was that of a corporate queen. But along that journey, you found something else, which is your speaking like career, right? That is also taken off. And the thing is, though, through the time you discovered the only way you were able to start those next journeys while you were in your current journey was through doing it, right? Just doing it. And I think that is
Yes.
kind of where we probably are going to have to wrap up this episode is just start, take that first step, right? Just start, take that first step, but have ensure the first steps that you're taking, because every one of the steps you shared, you just didn't willy-nilly go on every panel discussion or anything. You were strategic. So be strategic about how you map those out with regards to what you need for your career, not to pacify or satisfy someone else. Know that you'll be uncomfortable. I'm trying to like make a summary over here in my head as I'm speaking. Know that you'll be uncomfortable and embrace that discomfort, because you know that you're making progress through that discomfort. And if you face fear, if you're coming full circle, if you feel fear, really just know it's just, yes, it's fear. It's not good. It's not bad. It's fear.
It just is what it is.
It is just what it is. So,
I agree with you, Archita. If I could add to that, I think the fear, as long as you're not in bodily harm,
yes,
is telling you that you're on the right path.
yes.
Because the things that we do well, that we are meant to do, will often scare us because they're big and they're audacious. And your mission here on this earth was not a conference call. It is for you and you only to know. So, anybody telling you not to pursue this path is not qualified to tell you that. Only you know whether you should be going in a particular direction or not, because your body will tell you, yes, this excites me. I'm a little afraid, but I'm excited about
Yes.
this. Listen to, trust yourself enough to make it so that you are the only one that can give or take away permission or direction. Trust yourself.
Yes, my gosh, like you said that beautiful mic drop moment, which was, oh my god, what was it? It was, I'm like so caught up in it, I cannot remember this right now. About your mission in life is not the damn conference call. Yes, people, you sounding great on that conference call did nobody any good. How is that moving you
Exactly.
towards what you want to be and achieve in life? That's going to do you good. My gosh. Amazing, amazing. Like a really fun discussion again. I really enjoyed it.
Same.
Olivia, I hope our listeners enjoyed it. We did make a reference a couple of times to the Guiding Light program. If you do not know what
Yes.
it is, we would really recommend it. If you are sitting here and listening and thinking to yourself, huh, you know that thing I really wanted to get started on. Ah, I do not know why I have 18 projects on my plate right now. If you have even a single huh in this entire 50 minutes or 40 minutes that you're listening to us, head over to embracingonly.com and check out this phenomenal 60-minute self-paced learning program that Olivia has curated for you. It is one of the best things that you will do for yourself, and there's a lovely guidebook. If you're like, I'm all together and my life is good, phenomenal. We want to cheer you 100%. But I'm sure you have another girlfriend out there is having this aha, I'm not sure moments. The next time you have her birthday or anything, you just want to pay it forward, give her a gift of the Guiding Light program.
Well said, Archita. And we also have our group coaching. So we're building a community here, ladies. Join us on our website, join us on Instagram, join us on LinkedIn. We want to engage with you. We're doing panel discussions. We had one for Women's History Month that was phenomenal, that multiple gems were dropped there. So let's continue to build this community together so that we can cheer each other on. We can learn from each other. We can help lift each other up, because I will tell you, the future is not going to get better if we don't make it better. So instead of waiting for everybody to change the gender pay gaps, to change, the rights that we have, to give us permission to be ourselves, let's do it for each other. So please join our community, talk to us, engage with us, follow the guiding light, join our coaching program. We can do this together, because only together will we be the change that we want to see in this world.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us here today, everybody. Have a fabulous week ahead. Archita out.
Bye, y'all.